Hi, I'm Jocelyn Greshik with the Post and Courier, and I'm covering Charleston's mayoral runoff election on November 21st between incumbent Mayor John Tecklenburg and his challenger William Cogswell. It's been a close race, with both candidates scoring important endorsements as the election enters its final days. I sat down with both Mayor Tecklenburg and Mr. Cogswell to ask them about key issues affecting local residents.
Yeah, it is absolutely a crisis, and what's been happening to date, I would say, has been not even close to addressing it. You start with the fact that only about 3% of the city's needs have been taken care of over the past 8 years. So it's a compounding crisis that needs to be addressed. I've been pretty clear that first, I think you need to look to do a regional housing authority, because this is really a regional problem, particularly when you want to locate affordable housing near public transportation and existing infrastructure. So a regional housing authority, I think, will help significantly in that. Also because the City of Charleston Housing Authority, the City of Charleston Housing Department, North Charleston Housing Authority, and the county's, they're all competing for the same money and the way it flows down through Columbia. So it's highly inefficient, and it shows in the terms of the results. So a regional housing authority, I would say, is first and foremost. Second, I would say that the low-income housing tax credit structure in the state needs to be addressed, and that is not something Charleston can do by itself. It has to bring in Columbia, Greenville, Myrtle Beach, because they all have the same issues, not as acute as Charleston. And then the third one I would say is that the workforce housing zoning that we have here now, which really caters to 80 to 120 AMI, is not cutting it, because people are falling through the cracks and not qualifying. So that needs to be adjusted, and I think that's a really easy fix, where you can do a sliding scale on that and maybe drop it down to 60% AMI, so that teachers, like the example I used the other night, teacher at Sanders Clyde Elementary doesn't qualify in the affordable housing project across the street. So those are three very concrete solutions. And then the fourth one I would say is I've been pretty clear on doing some sort of millage cap on long-time owner-occupied residents.
Well, it takes all hands on deck and all the tools in the toolbox that you can possibly put together, and that's exactly what we've been doing at the City of Charleston. Our Housing and Community Development Department has a incredible strategy, which includes things like our own investment in affordable housing. And when we do that, by the way, we normally partner with a private developer or a nonprofit developer. The city might buy the land, for example, and then put it up for a request for proposal and partner with someone to build affordable housing, but we keep the land so that it's affordable for ever and ever. That's the intent. We created a nonprofit that does a land trust, and they've also been buying and preserving units. That's the Charleston Redevelopment Corporation. We've changed our zoning to allow people to build accessory dwelling units on their properties. We've cut the red tape for the development of bona fide affordable housing projects. They go to the top of the stack for all of our city reviews, and even if they had to go to the BAR, they go to the top of the stack, because we know that time is money. And we're partnering with everyone. We're urging institutions like the school district, even employers like the Medical University and Boeing, to help us provide more affordable housing for their employees, because it's the barrier to the economic growth and future of the Lowcountry. But transportation is a cost factor as well. So putting affordability close to public transit and improving public transit is an important part of the equation. And 86% of the units that we've created at the city that we've invested in, that I was talking about, are within a quarter of a mile of a transit stop. And it's coming, but it's funded. The Low Country Rapid Transit is under design. It will take a few more years to get that first leg up that's going to run from Ladson to the medical district, but it's on the way. Combination, affordability, and transportation. Well, it should be a mixed use, but it's got to be in sync with the city of Charleston. And from the moment that the Port Authority submitted their application, I said it was too tall, too dense, too many hotel rooms, not enough affordable housing. They made some progress on the affordability, but really not on the other things. So after that months of community review, we asked them to reset the clock and start over again in the design and planning and what's going to go there. It really has to be in sync. So we're on a good path now with the help of the Riley Center at the College of Charleston. We got a great committee, community-wide committee to help guide that. I think the Port Authority kind of woke up to the fact that that they needed to comply with the wishes of this community and this city in order to redevelop the property. That being said, there are benefits of being able to have a waterfront park, great public space, continue that access for our citizens to deal with the stormwater and the future protection from storm surge, to open up Concord Street again, in my view, is a good thing to add to mobility and do it in a thoughtful way so that bikes is very pedestrian friendly. Add that affordability. So there are good things that can come out of the redevelopment of Union Pier. It just has to be done a la Charleston. And the big thing that I think we all realize is to stay away from those big block-sized developments and break things down into smaller pieces. Think of Broad Street. It's pretty densely developed, right? You got one building after another, but you got that variety. You got different footprints. You got different plates. It's not just a big block-sized development with parking hidden in the middle. That's what we don't want to see. That's not Charleston.
I got 2 minutes on this one. Look, I think Union Pier should be developed. But the burden of the port's financial issues should not be borne by the city of Charleston and the residents of Charleston. So what I see going into Union Pier is a far less dense proposal than what was presented by Lowe and by the port. And I think if there's a financial delta there that the port would be penalized on, if you will, that's a state issue, and the state needs to help that entity, which is really infrastructure for the entire state, the South Carolina Ports Authority, needs to come in. And I think they will. I think they will if we have a well thought out plan. I would say that green space absolutely is something that you need to see more of in that plan, because that too would drive down the infrastructure costs. So again, this is a world I know very, very well and have 25 years of experience. And I plan on bringing that expertise and being very proactive in making sure that Union Pier is something that all residents of the peninsula and the city at large can be proud of. So I'm excited about the potential there, I really am. Absolutely. I think tourism is a very important part of our city's, not just our budget, but its workforce DNA, if you will. So I certainly support tourism, but absolutely it is essential that we diversify. And in terms of how and where and what we diversify to, again, I go back to we can look at it from just the city's perspective, but it is really something that we need to engage with other municipalities in the Tri-County area and the 3 other counties, because this is a regional economic development and affects us all. So the region has done a pretty good job on diversifying with the Boeings and the Volvos and whatnot. But what we haven't kept up with is the infrastructure, and what we haven't kept up with is the affordability. And we're really starting to feel the effects of that in terms of recruitment of companies. The other thing I would say on that front is education too. That's obviously been a problem for particularly Charleston County for quite some time. So it is a complicated question, I would say, but absolutely the diversification initiative would be something that I would be all over as mayor.
So I received an email this morning from Ernest Andrade at the Charleston Digital Corridor. Their headquarters, is just around the corner here, which the city supported. The average job of members of the Charleston Digital Corridor, they're now 800 members, is $123,000 a year. The average job in Charleston outside of that is $54,000 a year. Over twice the income by focusing on knowledge-based technology, science, software, life science type businesses. So if there's the economic development to be done, and there is, it's to focus on those kinds of jobs. I also want to add a little focus to finance industry. I think a lot of firms are leaving Wall Street, and that we could have also some high-end jobs from the finance sector. But our main focus has been working with the MUSC. That's why we did the West Edge partnership with MUSC to create a space for life sciences and innovation with the Charleston Technology Center. So that's where our focus and growth is on higher paying, knowledge-based employment. It's not to say that hospitality isn't an important leg of our economic stool. It is. It has been for years. We focus on, honestly, the higher end traveler. This isn't Myrtle Beach. We don't focus on quantity. We focus on quality experience. And I'll be honest with you, with the history here, the redevelopment of the Medal of Honor Museum, the Mother Emanuel Memorial is going to be just powerful. I believe Charleston has a role in inspiring people, and that's a good thing for our country. So it's the number one job of local government is to keep people safe. I think it goes all the way back to the foundation of our country. If you want to pursue the basic rights of life, liberty, and happiness, you have to be safe. And so it's our number one job. Since I've been mayor, we've increased the budget every year for both police and fire and emergency management as well. Don't forget, we've had 8 named storms over the last 8 years. We do have to deal with weather emergencies from time to time, but we've added the resources, the training for our police department. We have the best forensics facility of any city in the state. We're adding to that lab this year with DNA, the only city that will have its own DNA lab. I tell folks, you better not commit a crime in the city of Charleston, we're going to catch you. We're really, really good at catching folks that break the law. Keeping our city safe is just the ultimate priority of what we do. We have the best paid police force in the state. That's a focus, and it's paid off dividends. 8 years ago when I got elected, there were about 80 vacancies in the fire department of firefighters. We're at 100% fully staffed in the fire department today. 90% in the police department, but 100% in the fire department. We have a great emergency management department. So it will continue to be a focus. I will also report that we had a report day before yesterday, a review assessment of our racial bias audit, how that's going. We've completed 97% of the recommendations from that CNA audit a few years ago, and we will continue a focus because even though we enforce the law and catch the criminals, we want to do so in a respectful way to all our citizens and really have a mantra and a mindset of guardianship of our citizens.
I think that basic enforcement is something that I've been speaking to throughout my campaign. That is not meant to be a dig in any way, shape, or form on the police department, nor does it mean that we are to weaponize our streets or send SWAT teams in there. But when you look at situations like what is going on and has been going on King Street, particularly on weekend nights, it's a lot of Band-Aid approaches with lights, with more police presence, with taking out parking, with ID machines. None of it's working. I mean, the most recent public safety report spelled out that the crowds are just getting bigger. So, you know, if something's not working, you need to accept that it's not working and move on, right? So again, for me, it would be basic enforcement. And there's a lot that can be done there just in terms of public drunkenness and things of the like. And then but you also have to respect and appreciate the root causes of crime. And one of the things that I've learned by listening to people, particularly in lower income neighborhoods, is that a lot of these crimes are started by kids that are very young, that don't have a lot to do after school. A lot of the rec leagues and after school programs have been gutted for budgetary purposes, which I get. But that's where I think the mayor has a role to go to the business community and say, look, let's go sponsor the Little League team. And it sounds overly simplified, but it can be really community building and I think help solve a much broader problem. Well, yeah, they have absolutely been neglected. I will say I'll give credit to Peter Shade and some of the other council members for the West Ashley plan that was done 7 years ago. It's actually a pretty decent plan in setting up a TIF district, 2 TIF districts actually, sets a good groundwork for some revitalization. The problem though is nothing's been done. And it really is a travesty because it was one of the biggest building booms in our country's and city's history, with low interest rates, and a lot of good things could have been happening during that time. But again, I don't know if it was just not understanding it or not having the political will to do it. But there are incredible opportunities like Sumar Street and the redevelopment of that. I've been pretty clear that I want to take a much more holistic view of that. Same thing with Citadel Mall. I think there's some incredible opportunities there. Johns Island needs to deal with infrastructure first and foremost. I mean, it is 15 years behind when it comes to infrastructure, and we need to be incredibly aggressive about addressing that. Same thing with James Island too. Folly Road's a mess, and even just certain things like painting, turning lanes, adjusting timing of lights during certain times of the day. These are things that are low-hanging fruit that can and should have been done quite some time ago. And you know what? They're not going to solve every problem, but they're going to help. And we're going to learn from them, and we're going to figure out what the next move would be to actually get it taken care of completely.
Well, I live West Ashley, so I see that every day continual improvements are needed and are happening. It's a large swath of territory, a large swath of our city, and over 50% of our voters actually live West Ashley in that one section of the city alone. And the history of it is a little complex. You know, the city annexed a lot of the areas, both on James Island and Johns Island and West Ashley, after neighborhoods had been developed and things like sidewalks and stormwater improvements weren't really included. So on many fronts, we're playing catch up, and then you got areas that have donut holes where parts of it's in the city and parts of the county. That complicates a little bit. We went through amazing, robust community engagement, came up with Plan West Ashley. And I must say, sometimes the concept of the plan is broader than people really think of. And it's not the kind of thing that in one day you see this immediate transformation, but we've been adding parks. We opened Carr Richardson Park in Ashleyville last year, and thank goodness for the parks referendum passing. We'll be adding more parks. We've added parkland on James Island, Johns Island, West Ashley. We're doing drainage improvements. We're in the midst of phase 2 of our Forest Acres drainage project. It covers about 400 acres of West Ashley. We just approved the contract last night to do the work in Shadow Moss to convert that former townhouse area into not just water retention, stormwater, but a beautiful park and playground and walking trails for the citizens over there. They didn't even have a city park in Shadow Moss. We're adding that along with storm retention. There's been a lot of commercial development. I know there's focus on this, that, and the other, like Citadel Mall, which has been a little challenging because of the ownership there, but West Ashley Circle, the Whole Foods Center, I mean, lots of good things are happening if you look at the big picture. Is there more work to be done? You bet. The connection bothers me because what I've seen over the last few months with the Charleston County School District, it's really been chaos. And, you know, Mr. Cogswell and the Moms for Liberty might be getting into a little semantics or word games. You know, I'll admit that the moms say they don't endorse folks. I've only said that they recommended. So maybe that's a play on words, but I saw it in their Facebook post that they recommended William Cogswell along with other candidates for city council in both Mount Pleasant and Charleston. And their national motif has been not just school boards, but to take over local governments. And they bring chaos. We've seen it on the school board. So I'm proud to have Dr. Gallion support me the other day and come forward. He was a victim of their chaos. He really has a great heart and a head for educating our kids, a great commitment to that. I think it's a tragedy for our local schools to be in this situation they're in right now without the right leadership and the chaos that the Moms for Liberty group has brought to this. But I don't want to see that come to city government, and that's why I've been so concerned about it for our kids.
And what about the third-party ads?
Well, so, you know, months ago, someone handed me a Cogswell flyer. This was last summer that was paid for by some outside group, I think Prosperity Alliance or something like that. And in fact, the person who gave it to me relayed that when they queried the young man that was handing out the literature, that he had been paid by this group. They had flown him here from Iowa. He had been working for Ron DeSantis, and he had been flown to Charleston. He knew nothing about Mr. Cogswell, but was being paid by this dark money group, handing out literature. So, you know, this exists in the world today and Mr. Cogswell started this months ago.
I mean, I don't know if any PACs have given money to my campaign. I mean, that's all in public disclosure. And with regards to Moms for Liberty, let me be real clear with you. I have no relationship with them. I never have had any relationship with them. They don't support me. Again, it's a total fabrication by John, and I think it shows a complete and utter lack of integrity. And it's been incredibly frustrating throughout a very positive campaign that he decided to go negative and really just make things up about me. And he got caught doing it. We found the direct link between him and the various PACs through that attorney, Butch Bowers, and yet he still keeps saying it, and people keep reporting on it. And I've gotten threats, my family's gotten threats. I mean, I think words really matter, and it's been just, again, incredibly disappointing. I don't think negative campaigning gets us anywhere, and I don't mean to sound all high and mighty, but the reality of it is, as I tell people, potholes aren't partisan, and I think John's on the run. I think he's scared, and I think he has no record to run on, so all he can do is try and paint me in a negative light, which does nothing to help the city of Charleston and us move forward.